Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel Insight Nest. This is your host Razak and I am going to cover the repeating topics that was left in demand. In the last class I just introduced the topic demand. I explained you about the basics, what is demand and what are the types of demand. And today we will continue further with the chapter. And the first topic that we are going to touch is determinants of demand. So basically, we have understood what demand is, what are the types of demand. Now we must understand that whenever we are deciding demand for any commodity, what consideration are going on in our head. Before we decide demand for a product, what are the factors that are we considering to arrive at our demand? So the first factor that we consider while the first factor that we consider while having any demand for the product is the price of the product itself. Okay, so the first is price of the product. Right. Now imagine a situation. I'll tell you the entire determinant of demand through a story, which would be easier for you to understand. Let's suppose you want to buy a shirt. Alright, you want to buy a shirt, and for that purpose, you go to the market to buy a shirt. We're assuming that you're not doing online shopping; you're going to the market. Okay. Now, when you go to the market to buy a shirt, what is the first thing that you consider before buying anything? What is the first thing that we consider before buying anything as a middle class perspective? If you're super rich, ultra rich, then price is not a factor for you. But the first thing that you consider before purchasing any product or before creating any demand for the product is its price, right? Sorry. So the first factor that determines demand for any product is the price of the product itself. If the price is higher, usually we don't buy products which are high in price, and the price is lower, we demand more for that product. So there is an inverse relation between there exists an inverse relation between price of the commodity and demand for I'm not sure if blue marker is visible or not, but so now we have understood that the price of the commodity and the demand for it. Okay, those two, how these two are related? These are inversely related. If one thing rises, the other falls, and if the price rises, demand falls, and vice versa. If the price falls, demand rises. So this theory, I'm going to explain in detail how this is impacting, how price is impacting demand. But psychologically, you must have understood that price and demand are inversely related. How it is related, we'll go deeper into this in the further topics. Okay, I'll explain you why this is happening. So first factor we have understood, it's the price of the product. Second, now suppose you want to buy a shirt, and you went to the market. You saw some shirts in the display section, and you pick up the Allen Solly shirt. Okay, so you're looking at the price tag. Now the second thought that will come to your mind before even finalizing your purchase is, shall I try some other brand and see what other brands are pricing their product and what quality they are providing? So the next factor that you will consider is, before that, before going to the next product, first you will check the price. Second thing you will check, okay, the suppose the shirt price is 1200 rupees. Now you'll check whether I'm carrying 1200 rupees or not, whether you have that money or not. So the second factor that you will consider is the income of the consumer. Right. So the second product that you will consider before creating any demand for the product is the income of the consumer. Right. So why this is important? Because this is important because if a person is having a high income, okay, if a person is having a high income, and so high income means high purchasing power. Suppose a person A has an income of 1 lakh rupees and person B has an income of 50,000 rupees. Okay. Considering both person have same level of expenses, both of them spend same level every month. So who do you think is able to save more by the end of the year? Person A obviously will be able to save more by the end of the year. So person A will have a higher purchasing power. So purchasing power is a keyword here. Right. He will have a higher purchasing power and he will have a higher demand for every products. Okay. So in case of price there exists inverse relation, but in case of income there exists direct relation. So how it is directly related? Because as income of the consumer increases, his demand for the product also increases, and vice versa. If income falls, demand also falls. But in case of price, let's do the same thing for price. When price increases, demand falls, and when price falls, demand increases. Alright, so I hope these 2 points are clear to you. Now when we are studying income of the consumer, okay, there are few things to understand here. In our economy all the goods are not same or not of same quality. Okay, when we talk about types of good, we consider three classification of good. One is normal goods, the other category is inferior goods, and the third category is necessity goods. So when we are studying income of the consumer in respect to demand for it, we categorize goods in three categories. Why we are categorizing? Because our demand and nature of demand keeps on changing based on the type of good we are dealing with. For example, for normal goods, which is normal in nature, for normal goods, when the income of the consumer increases, its demand for it increases. The rule that is direct relation rule that is there, it applies to the normal goods. But in case of inferior goods, now I would like you to think about it. When the person is earning more income than previously, or if the level of income increases for any particular person, what is the behavior that you see in his expenditure? His behavioral pattern changes. What pattern? I'm talking about the pattern, like, for example, if he is having maybe some, you must be thinking like when the income of the consumer increases, they switch over to high quality products. Like some start drinking like green tea. Okay, some of them switch their uh, they start having good quality foods, like when if they used to have a rice of 60 rupees a kg, now they switch to a good quality rice and which costed 120 a kg, right? So basically, when our income level increases, our demand for inferior goods decreases. Now we don't want to go into that category. We want to live our life. We want to live a good quality of life and we want to improve our standard of living. So for that, we our consumption pattern changes. Okay, so inferior we reduces our purchase for inferior goods, or demand for inferior goods decreases because our income increases and want to level up the standard of living. All right. So in case of inferior goods, it is a inverse relation. When the income increases, the demand for inferior goods falls, and it's very obvious and logical. The next part is necessity goods. Okay, necessity goods in the sense necessity goods or like medicines. Okay, irrespective of whatever you're earning, if someone is sick, ill, health comes first, right? So he will buy the product at any cost. Even if he has to take loan for it, he will do it. So in case of necessity goods, when for in case of necessity goods, the demand for it is like this. If you're considering price here and quantity here, okay, at all levels of price, I my quantity is not changing with respect to price, because it is necessary for me. I'll have to buy it anyhow. So in case of necessary goods, even if the price changes or decreases, my quantity demanded will remain. My quantity will remain same. There is no change in demand for the commodity, because it is necessary for me. I'll have to purchase it. I hope this is clear till now. Price and income is clear. Now I'll move on to the next part. Okay, so now we have considered the price of the product, and you have considered also the income of the consumer. You have checked your pocket, how much money you have. So this too is clear. Now the third thing is, now you will check what am I actually looking for. What is my preference pattern? Now consumer will look for his preference pattern. So the third factor that determines the price of the commodity, that determines the demand for a commodity, is taste and preference pattern. All right. Suppose I have a preference towards a specific brand called Turtle. Okay. So even if the price is a little higher than other brands, I have trust in that brand. I've been using it for long, so I will any day go with that brand, because I have a preference. My taste and preference pattern is in favor of that brand. So the taste and preference pattern also play a very important role in determining demand for the product. Okay, this is how we have covered our third point, which is taste and preference pattern. It's clear now. So basically, nothing right here, but just demand for a commodity is also influenced by taste and preference pattern of the consumer. Give example. For example, if a consumer is having a preference for a brand A, then he will any day go for that brand irrespective of the price that is prevailing. You can make up the answer right like this. Okay. So the third point is clear. Now the fourth point here is, now we have covered all 3 points. Now before finalizing your purchase, now you will check, let me see what other brands are offering, what are the prices and what is the price and the quality of other brand. So you will check for the related good, you will check for the related good, you will check price of the related goods. Okay, so for example, if you are looking for a turtle shirt where that is costing you around 2200 rupees, and in the next counter you can see shirts of Allen Solid brand, that are offering a price at 1800 rupees. Okay, so don't you think, since these two are substitute goods, that means whether I buy Allen Solly shirt or I buy Turtle shirt, they are shirts after all, right? So there are substitutes of each other. So since these two are substitute goods and they can be replaced, so now since the other brand offering the same quality and is offering and is available at a lower price, even a rational consumer will eventually go to that product, will end up buying that product. So that's how price of related goods also play an important role in creating demand for it. Okay, let's suppose we are studying demand for turtle shirts. Okay, now we are considering demand for turtle shirts. Okay, and the rival brand or the competitive brand for this is, let's suppose, Allen Solly. Okay, let's suppose both the shirts are initially available at 2500 rupees. Okay, remember the product in discussion is turtle shirts and not this one. This is a substitute product of this one. The price was initially the same. However, this brand has come up with a discount offer and they are offering a discount of, let's say, 20% off, and the product is available at a price of 2000 rupees. You're getting 20% discount, that is 500 rupees. So now this shirt is available at 2000 rupees and this is available at 2500 rupees. If both the quality is same, don't you think a rational consumer will shift to this product instead of buying this product? So the price of this product does not change. However, it is because of the change in price of the related goods, the demand for turtle decreases. People will switch to Allen Solly and demand for this shirt drops. So this is how related goods play, the price of the related goods play an important role in determining the demand for that commodity. Okay, that commodity means I'm talking about turtle shirts, and its substitute is Allen Solly. So in case of related goods, when we talk about substitute, there is a direct relation with the demand and price. For example, if here we are considering demand, and here we are considering price. So if when the price of Allen Solly shirts falls, the demand for it also falls, because people are buying more of this commodity and less of this, so demand falls. And if the price of substitute product rises, okay, like if this becomes 3000 rupees, then this is relatively cheaper than this, people will buy more of it, so demand for it rises. So there exists a direct relation. So in case of substitute goods, the relation is direct. Okay, alright. Alright, so related goods can be of substitute types, or the other form is complementary goods. What are complementary goods? Okay, goods can be the related goods can be of two types. One is substitute, which we have already discussed. The second is complementary goods. Complementary goods are those goods that are consumed together. For example, let's suppose a whiteboard and a marker. This is not a whiteboard, but I have made like a wallpaper type product. But anyway, a whiteboard and a whiteboard marker are complementary goods. That is, uh, they are used together. Complementary goods means those goods that are consumed together. Bread and butter are complementary goods. Gun and gunpowder are complementary goods. Okay. So in case of complementary goods, since they are consumed together, okay, for example, marker and a whiteboard are used together. So, for any instance, for any reason, if the price of the board increases, suppose the price of the whiteboard increases, okay, the price of the whiteboard increases, but since these two products are consumed together, the demand for it, if the price of any good increases, demand for it falls. If the demand for whiteboard falls, the demand for marker also falls. So it is connected. Alright. So in case of complementary goods, what kind of relation is that? It is called inverse relation, because since they are connected, directly connected. So if I talk about price of this commodity or this commodity, it means the same, because these two are consumed together. So if anything, like in case of automobiles, if the price of car or bikes increases, okay, or let's suppose if the price of petrol increases, all right, if the price of petrol increases, since petrol and car, okay, are complementary goods, are used together, so people will switch towards EV vehicles and don't buy a petrol or a diesel car. They will switch to EV. So price of car is not changing. However, because of the change in price of the oil or petrol, because petrol price is increasing and car price is constant, but because of the change in price of petrol, it is getting costlier day by day. People are switching to EV just to save the amount of money spent on it, right? So price of car is not changing, but price of petrol is changing, and because of which demand for car falls. So this is how complementary goods is established. The relation, in case of complementary good is inverse relation, same as price of the product. So let's suppose here I am considering, okay, I use the black marker. This is petrol, this is car. Let's do one thing. Let's keep the product in question first. सही से लिखा था car and petrol. Okay, when the petrol prices increases, demand for it falls. When the petrol price increases, demand for it falls, and so does demand for car falls, because consumed together. Vice versa, if petrol prices falls, petrol becomes cheaper, people will demand more of this commodity, and if they demanding petrol more, they will buy petrol car or diesel car more. Okay, so the demand will increase. So there exists a inverse relation. Very simple. Alright. So I have already covered the 4 points or the 4 factors that determine price of the commodity. Now I'll move on to the last point, which is expectation of future prices. the last point for your answer. There are other factors too, but I think 5 points are enough for your answer. These are the basically main important factors. The fifth point, the last point, is consumers' expectation. Okay. For example, let's take an example. Suppose uh, you want to buy a refrigerator or a fridge. Okay, and okay, you want to buy a laptop. For example, you want to buy a laptop. You're thinking to buy a laptop, and as you must be aware that all electronic devices they use semiconductor chips, all right, for data storing. Semiconductor chips are used in these devices. So for example, if there is a news in the market that we are not able to import semiconductor chips, like there will be a shortage of this chips in the market, then what happens is, because there is a shortage, there is a reduction in supply shortage. So because of this, the prices of laptop is going to rise in future. Okay, because of this scenario, uh, the future price will rise. It is not it is not yet happened. Okay, things are now pretty normal now, but in the coming quarter, in the next quarter, in the next 3 months, there will be a shortage of semiconductor chips, maybe because of some bad trade relation with China. It is going to happen, and because of this, all the prices of electronics, be it mobile phone or laptop in which semiconductor chips are used, it will rise. Okay, the economics says if there is a if supply for if there is a reduction in supply, then the price increases. All right. So because of this news, you are expecting that the price will rise in future, so you will buy more of it. Okay, you will purchase the product today itself or in the coming week before this situation arises. So you will increase the demand for this product because you are of an expectation that the price of the product will rise because of any news. Okay, so this expectation also plays an important role in determining price of commodity. Vice versa. For example, suppose we have discovered a new technology, or an indigenous industry started producing semiconductor chips in India, or for any reason the supply of that product is going to increase for any reason. So we all know when the supply increases, price falls, price drops. So you as a rational consumer, okay, you will defer your purchase for this product because you know that in future the price is going to fall. So you will not buy the product today, you will buy the product when the event happens. All right. So this is how your expectation about future prices helps in determining demand for the commodity. Okay, and this is with respect to future. In the present scenario, nothing is changing, price is same, but it is your expectation based on the market news or something. It is your, because of your expectation, you are deciding whether you want to buy the product or you don't want to buy the product. So I hope determinants of demand is clear to you. Now we'll move on to the next topic, which is called demand function. I'll do it here only. Uh, what is demand function? It is not that function that you are thinking of, okay? That party or something. It's not like that. So demand function basically, in maths you must have read a term called function. When we say function, for example, y equals to f of x, which means y is dependent on x. If x changes, y changes. For example, if y equals to 2x plus 5, okay, if I change the value of x, if for example if the x value of x is 2, then value of y becomes 9. If the value of x becomes 3, then the value of y becomes 11. So this how y is dependent on x. Okay, that's how function is works. Y is a function of x. So here, since we have already studied demand and its determinants, that means what are the factors that determine the demand for a commodity. So can I say my demand for any commodity is dependent on a lot of factors, which is the first factor is price of the commodity. Alright, the second factor is money income of the consumer, second is price of the related commodity. Alright, the third we have studied is expectations of future prices, and the taste and preference pattern of the consumer. So all these factors helps in determining demand for the commodity. So by demand for a commodity, we mean it's a functional relationship between demand for the commodity and various factors that are affecting demand. So when we say demand function, we are studying the relationship between the factors and the demand for the commodity. As simple as that. Okay. All right. Very logical, very clear. Now we shall move on to the next topic. Now we shall study the law of demand. What does it states? All right. After studying so much about demand, now let's talk about what does law of demand states. Now, since we have already understood or studied all the factors that affect demand for the commodity, what do you think is the most important factor? According to you, what is the most important factor affecting demand for a commodity? Yes, you got it right. It's the price of the commodity. So the price of the commodity is the most important determinant or is the most important factor that helps in determining demand for any commodity. That's how on the basis of price. Now we'll study how price is affecting demand for the commodity, and that study is called the law of demand. Okay, what does it states? The law of demand states that so the law of demand states that when the price of the commodity increases, we already know when the price of the commodity increases, the demand for it falls, decreases, right? That means there exists an inverse relation between price and demand for the commodity. And but if you write just this, you will get zero, a big zero. Why? Why a big zero? Because the most important thing to consider in law of demand is law of demand considers other factors to be constant. As we all know, it is not just the price that affects the demand for the commodity. It is in demand function we have already studied there are multiple factors that affects the demand for the commodity that helps in determining the demand for the commodity. So if we leave all the factors to freely work, then it is difficult to determine the impact of price on the demand. So in order to study the effect of price of the commodity on the demand, we are keeping all other factors unchanged or constant. We are making other factors as constant. We are assuming that other factors are not changing at all. We are not we are not allowing them to freely change. We are assuming that to be constant. Now we can study how price is impacting demand, which is called the law of demand. So if you're writing this definition, don't forget to write other factors remaining unchanged. This is very important. If you miss out this part, then the whole definition is wrong and you will get a big zero for that. And what is it is called the other factors? When we are assuming other factors to be constant, this there is a Latin term called ceteris paribus. You can write it in your answer, which means we have kept other factors as constant and we are only considering the price of the commodity in determining demand for a commodity. So when we are studying price to check the demand for the commodity and we are keeping other factors constant, it's called law of demand. As simple as that. I hope it's clear to you. The next topic is it is a very small topics that I will cover very quickly. The first one is demand schedule. What do you mean by schedule? What do you mean by schedule? Schedule means a timetable, right? A timetable. So when you're studying demand, when we talk about demand schedule, it means a table that represents demand. Okay. Now, if you remember the definition of demand, when we say demand, we talk about a quantity which a consumer wants at a price, right? Because for the definition of demand to complete, if you remember, I have taught you, it's the quantity that the consumer is willing and able to pay at a price for a time period. So all these elements make up the demand, the true demand for the commodity. Or else the definition of demand is that it will not make sense if I'm not quoting the price, or if I'm not quoting the time frame in which, or the timeline in which I want the product. So in demand schedule, what we are studying, it is a tabular representation of quantity demanded at various levels of price. For example, let's say I'm talking about, for example, sugar. Alright, so when the price is 15 rupees a kg, I'm demanding 2 kgs of sugar. Alright, when the price falls to 10 rupees a kg, I'm demanding 3 kgs. And when the price further falls to 7 rupees, I'm demanding, let's suppose, 5 kgs. So by demand schedule, I mean various quantities of commodity demanded at various levels of price. Okay, it represents various quantity of a commodity demanded at various levels of prices. That's called demand schedule. So demand schedule can be of two types. It's very basic. When we are talking about a single household or a single person, remember household or person both mean same. Individual or I talk about individual demand. So individual demand is as good as household demand. All right. So when we talk about individual demand schedule, I am only considering quantity demanded by one individual or by one household, and when I say market demand schedule, I am talking about the demand quantity demanded by the entire market or the entire individual in the market. As simple as that. So there are two types of demand schedule. I'm not mentioning that, or let's say mention that as well. Individual demand schedule and the market demand schedule. Alright, so we have covered demand schedule also. Now let's move on to the next topic. Alright, so we have covered demand schedule. Now let's put it in graph paper. This data, can we put this data in a graph paper? Yes sir, we can put the data in the graph paper. Let's do that. Here I am measuring quantity. Here I am measuring price. Alright. Let's plot 15. When the price is 15, I am demanding 2 kgs. When the price is 10, I am demanding 3 kgs. Alright. And when the demand is 7, when the price is 7, I am demanding 5 kgs. 7 must be somewhere here. I am demanding 5 kgs. Alright. Alright. So I have represented this tabular representation in a graph paper, and when I'm connecting the dots, I'm getting a curve, right? It's a curve. What is this curve? This curve represents the quantity demanded or quantity demand, various levels of quantity demanded, various quantities demanded at various levels of prices, right? So basically, can I say this is a demand curve? This shows my demand for this product, which is sugar. Can I say that? So that's how when we plot the demand schedule in a graph paper, we get a demand curve. So what this demand curve? It's a graphical representation because it's in graph. So it's a graphical representation. What does it represent? It represents various quantities of commodity that is demanded at various levels of prices during a given time period, because time period is important here. Even in case of schedule, time period is important, right? So you can mention time period part as well in the schedule. And in case of demand curve, this becomes my demand curve. All right. Why graphical representation? Because it is represented in graph. As simple as that. Graphical representation क्या चीज का? Of what? Of various quantity Alright, so demand curve. ऑलराइट, तो हम लोगों ने डिमांड के बारे में ये पढ़ा कि डिमांड क्या होता है, डिमांड कैसे चेंज होता है, और डिमांड को चेंज मतलब डिमांड को कौन कौन से फैक्टर्स इन्फ्लुएंस करते हैं। प्राइस खुद उसका खुद का प्राइस करता है, मनी इनकम ऑफ द कंज्यूमर करता है, प्राइस ऑफ द रिलेटेड गुड्स करता है, टेस्ट एंड प्रेफरेंस पैटर्न करता है, एक्सपेक्टेशन ऑफ फ्यूचर प्राइसेस करता है। सो दीज आर द फैक्टर्स दैट अफेक्ट द डिमांड फॉर एनी कमोडिटी, राइट। अब डिमांड कर्व में दो चेंजेस होते हैं डिमांड कर्व में, ठीक है, तो हम वो पढ़ेंगे। एक होता है मूवमेंट अलोंग द डिमांड कर्व, एक होता है शिफ्ट ऑफ द डिमांड कर्व। एक एक करके समझते हैं व्हाट इज मूवमेंट अलोंग द डिमांड कर्व। ठीक है, समझने के लिए एग्जांपल लेते हैं जिसमें मैंने बनाया डिमांड शेड्यूल। आई हैव ड्रॉन अ डिमांड शेड्यूल, क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड एट वेरियस लेवल्स ऑफ प्राइसेस here, which is demand schedule. Now let's plot it in the demand, let's plot it in the graph. Let's see what we get. Here I am measuring quantity, here I am measuring price. ठीक है, चलो प्लॉट करते हैं। जब प्राइस 10 था, क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड वाज 50। ऑलराइट, जब प्राइस 10 है, क्वांटिटी डिमांड इज 50, लेट प्लॉट इट हियर। जब प्राइस 20 हुआ, क्वांटिटी डिमांड इज 25 समवेयर हियर। जब प्राइस 30 है, क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड इज 15। ठीक है, तो डिमांड कर्व अगर बनाया जाए कनेक्ट करके, दिस इज डेली डिमांड कर्व। ऑलराइट, तो अज्यूम करते हैं कि ये पॉइंट ए, ठीक है, जो इनिशियल पॉइंट था जिसमें जब मेरा प्राइस 20 था, और मेरा क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड वाज 30, ऑलराइट। When my price was 20, my quantity demanded was 25. So this was the initial point. Let's suppose this was the initial point. What happens when the price increases from 20 to 30? ठीक है? What happens when the price increases from 20 to 30? Let's see what happens. When the price increases from 20 to 30, we see that the quantity demanded falls to 15. So let me mark this from a blue pen, from a different marker. When the price increases, the quantity demanded decreases. Alright. And what if the price falls? What if the price falls from 20 to 10? When the price falls from 20 to 10, then what is the quantity demanded? The quantity demanded is 30. So when there is a fall in price, we see that there is an increase in the quantity demanded, which is defined by the law of demand. So graphically we have shown how price changes. When the price of this product, let's suppose we are talking about wheat. The product name is wheat. We're talking about wheat, and we're studying the changes in price of the wheat and the effect that it has on the quantity demanded. So we see when the price increases, the quantity demanded falls, which leads to, when this happens, when the price increases from 20 to 30, we see that there is a change in quantity demanded. The quantity demanded drops from 25 to 15, right? This leads to this causes movement along the demand curve, right? The point is moving along the demand curve from this point to this point, to that point. It is often called okay. So the quantity is reduced because of the increment in price. Since the quantity is reduced, we see that there is a movement along the demand curve from point A to point B. Let's assume this is point B. Alright, let's assume this as point B. So from point A, the demand curve moves till point B because of the increment in price, and the quantity demanded reduces, and this is often known as contraction of the Why it's called contraction? Because the demand curve is contracting. right? And also the quantity demand is reducing, so demand curve is contracting. Whereas on the other hand, when the price falls from 20 to 10, we see that the quantity demand expands. The quantity demand expanded till 50. So this leads to movement along the demand curve from point A to, let's say, point C, and this movement is also known as expansion of the demand curve. It is called expansion of the demand curve. I hope this is clear to you. So when we are studying about the impact of the price of the product on its quantity demanded, we see that the law of demand applies to this demand schedule. When the price today's demand curve, when the price rises, we see there is a, when the price increases, the quantity demand decreases, and when the price decreases, quantity demand increases. So when the quantity demand decreases, it's called it leads to a contraction of the demand curve from point A to B, right? If we see graphically, it is contracting from this point to this point. However, when the price falls, the QD, quantity demand, increases. That leads to expansion of the demand curve, of the demand curve from point A to C. Okay, and this expansion and contraction is, the entire thing is commonly called movement along the demand curve. Why? Because the points is moving along the demand curve and not away from the demand curve. Whatever movement that is happening, it is happening along the demand curve, right? Along the demand curve DD. So that's why it is called movement along the demand curve. It is happening due to change in price of the said commodity. The said commodity is wheat. I hope movement along demand curve concept is clear to you. If this is clear to you, then we can move on to the next part, which is shift of the demand curve. ठीक है, एक बार फिर से वापस से रिवाइज करवा देता हूँ. जब जिस कमोडिटी की बात कर रहा हूँ उसके प्राइस में चेंजेस आता है और उस चेंजेस प्राइस में चेंज आने की वजह से क्वांटिटी डिमांड चेंज होता है, तब मूवमेंट अलोंग द डिमांड कर्व होता है, क्योंकि प्राइस भी चेंज हो रहा है और क्वांटिटी डिमांड भी चेंज हो रहा है, जिसके वजह से क्या होता है, जो पॉइंट्स, जो कर्व डिमांड, जो कर्व जो बन रहा है डिमांड कर्व में, पॉइंट्स, दैट पॉइंट शिफ्ट, दैट पॉइंट मूव्स फ्रॉम पॉइंट ए टू पॉइंट बी. ठीक है, दैट पॉइंट मूव फ्रॉम ए टू बी. When the point moves from A to B, it is called contraction of the demand curve, because quantity demanded is reduces, and when it moves from point A to point C, we see that quantity demanded increases because of fall in price, which is often known as expansion of the demand curve, and this entire thing is called movement along the demand curve. मेरे ख्याल से ये क्लियर हो गया होगा आपको. अब नेक्स्ट जो है आपका शिफ्ट ऑफ द डिमांड कर्व पढ़ लेते हैं. यहाँ पे हम लोग ये स्टडी कर रहे थे कि जिस प्रोडक्ट का डिमांड कर्व बता रहे हैं उसके प्राइस में चेंजेस आ रहा है, बट व्हाट इफ प्राइस में चेंजेस कुछ नहीं आ रहा है, बाकी फैक्टर्स चेंज हो रहे हैं. ठीक है, जब हम लोग ये अज्यूम करते हैं कि प्राइस में कोई चेंजेस नहीं आया है और बाकी फैक्टर्स चेंज हो रहे हैं. सेम एग्जांपल है दिस. लेट्स सपोज वीट का एग्जांपल लेते हैं और बनाते हैं. यहाँ पे क्वांटिटी, यहाँ पे प्राइस, ऑलराइट, तो हम लोगों ने मूवमेंट अराउंड डिमांड के समझ लिए। अब लास्ट इससे रिलेटेड नहीं है बट यही सेम कॉन्सेप्ट पे बेस्ड है कि डिमांड कब शिफ्ट कब करता है। ठीक है, यहाँ पे हम लोग क्या मेजर कर रहे हैं, यहाँ पे सेम है, यहाँ पे प्राइस मेजर कर रहे हैं प्रोडक्ट का, यहाँ पे क्वांटिटी मेजर कर रहे हैं। बट व्हाट आर वी अज्यूमिंग हियर, वी आर अज्यूमिंग दैट द प्राइस ऑफ वीट, प्राइस ऑफ द वीट इज नॉट चेंजिंग, इज कांस्टेंट। क्या है, जैसे यहाँ पे प्राइस चेंज हो रहा था जिसके वजह से क्वांटिटी डिमांड में चेंज हो रहा था, यहाँ पे हम लोग ये अज्यूम कर रहे हैं कि प्राइस सेम है। हो ही सकता है कि प्राइस चेंज नहीं हुआ, उसके बावजूद भी प्रोडक्ट के डिमांड में चेंजेस आ रहे हैं। क्यों आ रहा है सर? क्योंकि हम लोग पढ़ चुके हैं कि प्रोडक्ट के डिमांड को, जो डिमांड कैलकुलेट करते हैं किसी प्रोडक्ट का, वो सिर्फ प्राइस पे डिपेंड नहीं है, वो बाकी फैक्टर्स पे भी डिपेंडेंट है, राइट। तो जब बाकी फैक्टर्स चेंज होने लगते हैं और प्राइस सेम है, तब देखते हैं डिमांड कर्व में क्या इंपैक्ट पड़ेगा। लेट्स सपोज प्राइस ऑफ द व्हीट इज फिक्स्ड एट 50 रुपीज अ केजी। ओके, इट इज फिक्स्ड एट 50 रुपीज अ केजी, but it is fixed at 50 rupees a kg, but my other factors start changing. For example, let's assume the economy in which we are studying, the market in which we are studying the demand curve for the market. Let's assume in that market suddenly people start earning more income, their money income increases. If the money income increases, they will start consuming more of the product. Previously they used to purchase, for example, a household used to purchase 10 kgs per month. When the income increases, they start purchasing 15 kgs per month. So because of the change in money income, the price is same, the price of the wheat is not changing, but because of the change in money income, which is one of the factors, the quantity demand changes from 700 ton to 1500 tons for the whole economy I'm talking about. So initially the price was fixed at 50. Alright, initially the price is fixed at 50 and quantity demanded was 1000. Price is not changing, so we have only one point in the demand curve, and let's create a demand curve as DD0. So price is constant, price is not changing, it is constant. However, due to change in money income of the consumer, people start earning more, so they start spending more, they start buying more of the commodity. So when they start buying more of the commodity, price is same 50, but now we are purchasing 1500 tons of the product for the entire market. We see that the demand curve which was here shifts to a different point which is here. Let's name it point A, point B. So demand curve shifts from point A to point B. And since it's a different demand curve, let's name it DD1. Alright. So when the price is same but still quantity is changing because of changing other factors, we see that the entire demand curve shifts towards the right. Alright. Alright, this rightward shift, what does it indicate? It indicates that there is an increase in quantity demanded, the rightward shift of the demand curve. Alright.
rightward shift of the demand curve, which is often called increase in demand. Whereas let's assume the opposite. For example, if the income of the consumer in that market starts to fall, they start making less money. When they start making less money, they will consume less of the commodity. Although the price of the commodity is same, price change नहीं हो रहा है, but क्योंकि वो लोग अब कम कमा रहे हैं, तो वो लोग कम स्पेंड करेंगे, कम खरीदेंगे. तो मैं फिर देख पा रहा हूँ कि डिमांड कर्व जो यहाँ पे था इनिशियली, अब यहाँ शिफ्ट हो गया है, तो इस पॉइंट पे. तो इसको नाम दे देते हैं D2. दिस वाज द इनिशियल डिमांड कर्व, और इनिशियल से ये लेफ्टवर्ड शिफ्ट हुआ है. जो इंडिकेट करता है डिक्रीज इन डिमांड, इंडिकेटिंग डिक्रीज इन डिमांड. यहाँ पे एक बहुत की इंपॉर्टेंट टर्म है जो दिमाग में रखने का है. ऑलराइट, जब भी डिमांड दोनों में बढ़ रहा है, यहाँ पे भी डिमांड बढ़ रहा है और घट रहा है, यहाँ पे भी डिमांड बढ़ रहा है और घट रहा है, दोनों में ही डिमांड बढ़ रहा है, घट रहा है. बट जब उसकी प्राइस की वजह से क्वांटिटी डिमांड चेंज होता है, तो उसको बोलते हैं हम लोग चेंज इन क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड. क्या बोलते हैं उसको? बोलते हैं हम लोग, यहाँ पे बोलेंगे चेंज इन क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड. वी से चेंज इन क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड. लेकिन जब शिफ्ट होता है डिमांड कर्व, इसको बोलते हैं चेंज इन डिमांड. दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टर्म. ये टर्म बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, अक्सर बच्चे मिस करते हैं या फिर कंफ्यूज हो जाते हैं ये दोनों टर्म में. यहाँ पे जब प्राइस के वजह से चेंजेस आता है क्वांटिटी डिमांड में, उसको बोला जाता है चेंज इन क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड. लेकिन जब प्राइस कांस्टेंट है, अदर फैक्टर्स की वजह से चेंजेस आ रहा है, चाहे डिक्रीज हो या इंक्रीज हो, व्हाटएवर इट इज, whether increase or decrease, we say it is change in demand. When we say change in demand of the commodity, we are referring to shift of the demand curve. When we say change in quantity demanded, we are referring to movement along the demand curve. For movement along the demand curve, the sole factor is the price of the commodity itself. For movement along the for a shift of the demand curve, the price is not moving, other factors are changing, that leads to shift of the demand curve, either rightward or leftward. Rightward shift is also known as increase in the demand curve. Increase in demand, because जब राइट शिफ्ट करता है तो क्वांटिटी डिमांड बढ़ता है, राइट. क्वांटिटी इस तरफ बढ़, इस तरफ घट रहा है. तो राइटवर्ड शिफ्ट जब होता है तो उसको इंक्रीज इन डिमांड बोलते हैं. लेफ्टवर्ड शिफ्ट होता है तो उसको डिक्रीज इन डिमांड बोलते हैं. आई होप दिस 2 पॉइंट्स इज क्लियर. दोनों का डिफरेंस भी क्लियर होगा, इसमें क्या फैक्टर्स की वजह से चेंज आते हैं, इसमें क्या फैक्टर की वजह से चेंज आता है वो भी क्लियर होगा, और टर्म्स भी क्लियर होगा. इंक्रीज, चेंज इन क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड एंड चेंज इन डिमांडेड. अब कोई बच्चा पूछेगा कि सर इसको चेंज इन क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड क्यों बोलते हैं, और चेंज इन क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड क्यों बोलते हैं, और इसको चेंज इन डिमांड क्यों बोलते हैं? व्हाई देयर इज अ डिफरेंस? बिकॉज इफ यू अंडरस्टैंड द डेफिनेशन ऑफ डिमांड शेड्यूल, ये तो डिमांड शेड्यूल से आया है ना. ये जो ग्राफिकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन है किससे आया? डिमांड शेड्यूल से आया. और डिमांड शेड्यूल का डेफिनेशन क्या था? डिमांड शेड्यूल रेफर्स टू द क्वांटिटी ऑफ कमोडिटीज demanded at various levels of price. Quantity demanded, वहाँ पे आ रहा है ना, quantity demanded at various levels of prices. इसलिए इसको change in quantity demanded बोला है, क्योंकि प्राइस की वजह से चेंज हो रहा है. यहाँ पे क्योंकि प्राइस जो है वो कोई रोल प्ले नहीं कर रहा है चेंज करने में, इस वजह से इसको चेंज इन डिमांड. बिना प्राइस के डिमांड चेंज हो रहा है. और वहाँ पे क्वांटिटी डिमांड, वहाँ पे क्योंकि प्राइस की वजह से चेंज हो रहा है, और डिमांड शेड्यूल आ रहा है यहाँ पे. एंड डिमांड शेड्यूल की डेफिनेशन ही है, डेफिनेशन ही यही है कि it refers to various quantity of commodity demanded at various levels of price. इसीलिए यहाँ पे quantity demanded आता है, यहाँ पे change in demand होता है. I hope it is clear to you now. The basic difference between the two. Alright, so the next topic that we are studying is forces behind the law of demand. Alright, or what does this mean? What do you mean by forces behind law of demand? This means we are studying why the demand curve slopes downward to the right. We're going to study that. So the first force that make this happen is called law of diminishing marginal utility. Okay, let's understand what is this. What is this law? In order to understand this, we must understand first what is utility. Then we must understand. If at all you don't know, I will make you. I will explain what is utility. Then I explain what is marginal utility. Then we'll come to this. What is diminishing marginal utility? So in economics, utility means satisfaction. Okay. Remember the first class that we studied. We consume goods and services to satisfy human wants, right? So there is a term called utility, which means satisfaction. Then what do you mean by marginal utility? Margin means marginal means additional. So additional satisfaction. Okay, let's take an example to understand this. For example, let's suppose you are a tea lover or a chai lover, and you take. Let's suppose you are addicted to tea and you take about 10 cups a day. Alright. You take about 10 cups a day. Now I want you to imagine. What do you think, which cup will give you more satisfaction or the most amount of satisfaction? The first cup of tea that you take in the morning, early morning, that gives you the maximum amount of satisfaction. Let's suppose you're getting 50 out of it. Not rupees, sorry. Okay. And the second cup of tea is giving you, for example, when you consume first cup of tea, your satisfaction level is 50. When you're consuming second cup, your satisfaction level is 90. Right? And when you're consuming the third cup, your satisfaction level is now when you're consuming first cup, your satisfaction level or utility level is 50. When you're consuming second cup, what extra are you getting with with adding one cup? You are getting an extra 40 rupees as your satisfaction. So this extra additional is called margin utility. How much extra satisfaction you are getting by consuming one additional unit of the commodity. एक एक्स्ट्रा यूनिट कंज्यूम करने से एक्स्ट्रा कितना एमयू मिलता है, वो मार्जिनल एक्स्ट्रा कितना सेटिस्फैक्शन मिलता है, वो मार्जिनल यूटिलिटी बताता है हमें. ठीक है, दैट्स the definition of margin utility. How much extra are you getting by consuming an extra unit? Here you are getting 40 extra, here you are getting 30 extra, here you are getting 20 extra, here 10, here you are not getting any extra, here you are getting negative. Now it's not getting negative. Let's make it 20. So it's very logical that when you keep on increasing the quantity of commodity, your satisfaction level, your additional satisfaction level decreases, right? And it is very logical that when people is consuming more of a commodity, it will have less satisfaction for the commodity. MU falls, and since your MU is falling, since you are not getting any extra satisfaction by consuming additional units, so in what you will do, you will reduce the purchase of the commodity. All right. So there is a concept called, okay, a rational consumer is an equilibrium. Equilibrium means a level where whatever price you are paying, you are getting the same satisfaction. You are paying 10 rupees, you are getting satisfaction of 10 rupees, you are satisfied. That's called equilibrium. When the satisfaction that you are getting is equal to the price that you are paying, that is equilibrium. Okay, let's suppose the price of the cup of the tea is rupees 20. Let's suppose 20. All right, let's suppose the price that the consumer is paying is 20. So based on the charts, at what level you think the consumer is at equilibrium? The consumer is at equilibrium when, okay, let's see, when the consumer is purchasing one cup of tea, he is getting satisfaction of 50 utils. 50, he is getting satisfaction of 50. Okay, one thing I want to mention here, that utility is mentioned in utils and not in rupees. This is not rupees. This is utils. 50 utils. Okay. So when the consumer is purchasing one cup of tea, he is getting satisfaction of 50 utils. When he is getting to 93, 120, this is how it follows, and this is how additional utility is derived. Okay. So a consumer is at equilibrium when its marginal utility equals price. So let's see where MU is 20. Here MU is 20. So a consumer is at equilibrium at 4 cups of tea. That means when he is consuming 4 cups of tea, he is getting the same level of satisfaction which is paying for the commodity. Alright. let's suppose price of tea falls to 20 rupees a cup. So when the price of tea falls to 10 rupees a cup, where do you think the consumer will be at equilibrium now? The consumer will be at equilibrium at this level, at this level. In order to reach at this level, the consumer will increase the quantity of purchase. From 4 units, he will buy one additional unit. That means the quantity increases. So a reduction in price. So a reduction in price increases the quantity. That's how they exist inverse relation. Similarly, vice versa. Let's take another example. Suppose the price of tea is now doubled. It changes to rupees 40 a cup. Now, where do you think the consumer is at equilibrium? The consumer is at equilibrium at second cup of tea. So when the price increases, quantity demanded from 4, it becomes 2. That means quantity demanded falls. So when price increase, quantity demanded falls. This is how we get the that's called the law of diminishing marginality. That means when the consumer increases more of a commodity, its MU decreases, right? And based on this logic, that MUX consumer is at equilibrium when the marginal utility of the product equals price that is paying for the product. Based on this, we are able to conclude that when the price increase, when the price of the commodity increase, quantity demanded for it falls, and vice versa. Is it clear now? Alright, so we have now understood what is law of diminishing marginal utility. Now let's move on to the next force. The second force is income effect. Okay, what is income effect? So let's first write a definition. Alright, so if we go by definition, it says the income effect says when there is a change in quantity demanded, when there is a change in quantity demanded for the commodity due to change in real income. I am talking about real income. Okay, due to change in real income, and why this is happening? Because there is a change in price of the commodity. This is called income effect. सर समझ नहीं आया कुछ भी पहली समझ लीजिए रियल इनकम बोलते किसको सर is it what actually we are earning real income? No, it's not. There are two types. There are two income. One is money income. One is money income which you actually earn. For example, suppose a person, Mr. A, is getting a salary of rupees 50,000 a month. Alright, he is getting a salary of 50,000 a month. And he is using his entire salary for his household consumption. Okay. Assuming he is not saving at all. He is not saving at all. He is using his entire salary in the household consumption of his home, and he's using his entire salary to buy commodities and to buy services for himself and for his family, and he's not saving at all, assuming that. Let's suppose Mr. A. Okay, let's suppose whatever commodity or services Mr. A is buying for his household, let's suppose the price for those commodity falls and services falls, and it falls by 50%. मतलब half हो गया. It falls by 50%. If the prices fall by 50%, don't you think Mr. A would be able to buy those commodities which he has been buying for every month? Don't you think if the price falls by 50%, he will be able to buy all these commodities with just 25,000 rupees? Because previously he was spending 50,000 rupees. Now if the price falls by 50%, now he will be able to buy those commodities with just rupees 25,000, that is half of 50,000, and he will be able to save 25,000 rupees, right? So because of his income is not changing, by the way. Okay, his income is constant. He did not get any appraisal or a salary hike. However, because of the fall in price, he is able to save more. Now with this saved money, he can buy more of this commodity. His income is not changing, but money income is not changing, but real income, that is his purchasing power, is increasing. So when we say real income, I am referring to the purchasing power. He is able to buy more of that commodity with the same level of income. That's called real income. Now, is it clear? So I think now definition would be clear to you. When there is a change in quantity demanded, we can see that previously he used to buy, for example, 100 units quantity of commodity for his household. Now, since the reduction in price, since the price is reduced by 50%, he can buy 200 quantity with the same price, with the same level of income. So when the quantity demanded change due to change in real income, the real income changes. Previously, real income was just 50,000. Now the real income becomes 75,000, increases by 25%. Due to change in real income, how the real income is changing? Because the price is changing. So price changes, which results in change in real income, which results in change in quantity demanded. This is called income effect. I hope this is clear to you.